Welcome back to another episode of the Mate Night Podcast. You've just got me for this intro today because for whatever reason, Fred and I had decided that we were just going to record a couple of segments for the YouTube channel and not bother recording any of this. If this is not the case and there is a recording somewhere, then I'm an idiot and we've learnt nothing new. This episode is on Team America World Police, 2004 film, Trey Parker, direct and starring. I'm going to read out the scores that we gave it. Unfortunately, we don't have the review knocking about. I don't know where it is. But what we do have is 3 segments. We've got a Should You Watch It segment where we do our best abilities to try and understand, is this a film for you? Okay, so what kind of things do you look for in a film, and does this film provide it? Fred brought a couple of segments too. They're great fun. We've got the greatest quotes in Team America. It's a this versus that style segment. There's some great impressions in there. And then we've also got the greatest vom in cinema history, which obviously Team America World Police features in. But we've got a couple of other features as well. So strap in, go get yourself a brew. I'm going to read out all the scores at the end, as usual, and tell you roughly where it sits on our score sheet. Let's go.
What is the funniest line in Team America? I've got 19 of the most iconic and funny quotes here. We're going to do a this or that format where the winner stays on. All right, so number 1. And if you betray us, I'll rip your fucking balls off and stuff them up your ass so that the next time you shit, you'll shit all over your balls. Got it?
Excellent delivery, as always. Impeccable.
Number 1. And number 3, Matt Damon.
Okay, definitely number 1.
Yeah.
Cool. Definitely. Now, Matt Damon's funny, but I know Matt Damon a little better than the first time I watched this film, and I still don't really get that whole...
Should I tell you what the reason for that
Go
is?
on.
So, originally, the only character from the Film Actors Guild that they were going to make kind of smart and eloquent was Matt Damon.
Okay.
But then they got the marionette for him out the oven or wherever they come out of the box, and they're like, oh, he looks he looks mentally not quite all there. And so then they just cut all their dialogue and just like, Matt Damon.
Matt Damon. That's that sort of joke that you do where it's like, only they're ever going to get that.
Because they kind of knew Matt Damon and he knows them, and like, he's been quite effusive towards them before and said like, oh, I think they're geniuses. And then apparently when it came out, he was like, yeah, I don't really understand why they've been so mean to me, but you know, I guess you got to just take it on the chin.
Oh,
and then he found out later that
that
it's just because they thought it was a fucking stupid joke. Let's stop on. What is number 15? It's quite a good one. Let me explain to you the kind of man Gary is. He's a man who knows that when you put another man's cock in your mouth, you make a pact, a bond that cannot be broken. He's a man so dedicated that he will get down on his knees and put that cock right in his mouth.
Okay, I have to emphasize 10 out of 10 for delivery. And also, absolutely, yes, that wins.
I think what will be quite difficult is if we stay up with those ones. You get a few that are along a similar chain from Spotswood.
Yeah.
I tried to only do one from like... Because he makes the same joke a few times. But some of them are so funny that I just repeated it.
Fair enough.
Okay, so we'll remove that one. And then we are now spinning. And now we're going to number 7, which is... It's a class. Yeah. Okay, a limousine that can fly. Now I have seen everything. Really? Have you seen a man eat his own head? No. So then you haven't seen everything.
Oh, that's now getting tough. I think Spotswood really is the best part of
He's
this
got
film.
the best lines, yeah.
I think that I'm going to go... I think it's God. I feel like cock in mouth just takes the cake.
Okay.
Cock packed.
That's okay, so that's the first one.
What do you think? Is that... it could go either way for me.
I think the thing with the cock-packed one is he makes the joke a few times.
Yeah.
So it really depends which one's your favourite.
But this one in particular, he delivers to all the United Nations leaders, like the whole world.
I think there's another one which I forgot about when I was doing these quotes that I actually prefer, which I think I did add. So let's have a look. All right, number 12 we have next. So which one is that? Remember, there is no I in Team America.
I think it's still going to be cockbacks.
Sure, I think that one can't. That one, no way. That one could usurp context.
Although, again, it is good.
It is good. I think what almost ruins that, though, is that, and I even cut it out here, is that intelligence goes after, yeah, there is. Which is
I agree.
I don't need to say that.
I agree. Yeah.
All right, 16. What do we have here? All right. With my apologies. It will be 911 times 2,356. My God, that's... I don't even know what that is. Nobody does.
It does. I think that's the best line. That could be the best. That could be the winner.
It took me a few. I searched a few different places to find different quotes, and it took me a few times to find that one. I was like, oh shit, yeah, I love that one, because I prepared these before watching the film, so I had to remember which
It's
one.
even got the setup of like equally like,
and the joke had almost got a bit tired at that point until that one, which
Yes.
it worked in its favor. Right, so we have number 11. It's going to be, which is, you have balls. I like balls.
good, not 911 times 2,000,
Not 911.
whatever.
All right. The next one we have is number 5, which is, promise me you'll never die. You know I can't make a promise like that. If you did that, I would make love to you right now. I promise I will never die.
No. Oh, that's so hard.
Really? You're a big fan of that quote?
That's the only line that Fez laughed at in
Really?
the whole
So
film.
that might influence your opinion, I suppose. Maybe it's for a more broad
No, I've
appeal.
always thought that was very funny.
Yeah.
Oh, I think that the Kim Jong, is it Il or I can't remember.
It's
which one.
Il, isn't
Il. I think the 911 times 2003. That just takes it for me.
Yeah,
but that
okay.
is such a good line in that.
Okay, I'm interested.
I promise.
All right, where are we at now? We have number 9. It's going to be, which
9/11
is
times two.
okay. This the only song quote I had in there because I like it so much. I miss you more than Michael Bay missed the mark when he made Pearl Harbor.
Very nice. You know what? We've been looking for a podcast intro tune. And that could be it. That could be.
Me
No.
singing.
You singing it. That is now the
Pearl
new.
Harbor sucked. The thing I love about that film is, like, obviously he shits on Pearl Harbor at the end and says how much he equivocates it to missing her. And then right at the end he just goes, Pearl Harbor sucked just a little bit more than I missed you.
Yeah, I think Kim Jong still keeps the winning.
Yeah, fair enough.
I think partly that joke missed because I haven't seen Pearl Harbor. Yeah. For those who follow this channel, you'll realize I haven't watched that many.
It's just made me never want to watch that film, but maybe we should.
It actually made me want to watch it.
That would have been a pretty good 4th of July film to do, actually.
Oh, I could
We'll
maybe
do it next year.
I could do a should you watch for us.
Nice. All right, number 10. Back, Durka la, Durka, Muhammad Jihad, Haka Sherpa Sherpa, Abaka la, Durka.
Durka. Oh, yeah. I tell you what I'm realizing is there's a lot of S tier. Sorry, what I'm realizing is there's a lot of S tier quotes.
That's why I tried to mix it up. When we did the Superbad one, I felt like this is a bit more engaging than us just trying to compare really good quotes, which all could have done well. And the same with this, like, there's so many S tier levels.
I like it. I think Kim Jong could potentially have had the best line in the whole movie there, because I think that wins again for me.
Really? But I think I would go with this one.
Durka.
I think it's just both the fact that Gary does it in no accent whatsoever, just really stoically goes like, Hacker Sherpa Sherpa. I think for me, I always found that line.
I know, but just the delivery, nobody does.
All right, well, let's keep it. We got to stay true. All right, number 4, that's going to be, isn't it? Yeah. Okay, so this was just an homage to the whole thing, but... See, there's 3 kinds of people, Chuck. Dicks, pussies, and assholes.
Okay, yeah, I get you. Yeah, I think the Kim Jong definitely takes it, but I think that there is... if we're homaging the whole thing,
'Cause
I really liked the scene where he upstaged Alec Baldwin with it. Like I don't know. This is the funniest quotes, and I don't know if that was necessarily the funniest, but when he upstages him with that, it is great.
That's more in terms of the whole importance to the film. Obviously, that sentiment and that idea comes back once, and it's very funny. But I think with that specifically, maybe the funniest line in it, or one that I used to find really funny when I was a kid watching it, was when the drunk guy at first goes like, "We'll get our dicks and our pussies all covered in shit," and then Gary just pukes.
Yes.
I remember the first time seeing that, like pissing myself.
And if you want to check out a ranking of the greatest pukes in cinema history, then please go check out the video on the top right now.
Yes. All right. So, no to that one. Let's remove it. Will we get anything beat Kim Jong-un? We've still got a few candidates.
Nobody does.
Nobody does. All right, we're looking at number 18. How's this one going to fare? Now, hold on, team. Gary has already proven to me that he is 100% committed to the team. He proved it last night by sucking my cock.
I feel like including in the silence following it, I think that beats the Kim Jong one.
Yeah.
That silence where everybody just is like,
all right.
Okay.
I think with that one as well, that's actually my favourite variation of the him saying about sucking
Yeah.
I prefer that to when he does it in front of everyone.
I think I agree. Yeah. Because as well, even after the silence, somebody adds something quite funny where they're like, "Good enough for me," or something like that. Like the whole sequence is just brilliant.
All right, quality. So
we got a new one. We got a new winner.
I mean, it would make sense if a Spotswood one does win it.
I agree.
All right, number 6. What have we got for 6? Jesus, this is a nice limo. Yes, it is. Now suck my cock. That's almost perfect that they came one after another.
I'm going to go with the other one, the one that has already been one. What am I going to call it? Because it's probably going to stick around a while.
Right, which one?
Gary's proved himself.
Yeah, 100% commitment.
100%.
100%. 100%.
100%.
All right, cool. So, next one, remove. Gary, you didn't kill your brother. Those gorillas did.
That's the quote.
I always found it really funny.
Chuck it in the bin.
It's the most fucking ridiculous quote. It's not. It's like the stupidest thing. Why is she saying that? She says it twice as well.
It is funny. It is funny. It is good, but there's no way it competes with 100% commitment.
Fair enough. Cairo. That's in Egypt.
Yeah. I tell you what, I didn't notice that line to be a particularly funny line when I used to watch it. It was only when I watched it the other day.
One of those sneaker ones.
Where the like classics weren't hitting as hard.
Of course.
And then I heard that line and I was like, that's brilliant.
Yeah.
That's so good. How did I miss that last time?
Yeah. Well,
it's no 100% commitment. No, that's I mean.
All right, let's have a look. We're going to go for number 8. Last year, I went to Iraq. Before Team America showed up, it was a happy place. They had flowery meadows and rainbow skies and rivers made of chocolate where the children danced and laughed and played with gumdrop smiles.
Bit it.
Funny story about that. Have you heard about the... So they obviously took the piss out of loads of different people, not for any of their political stances, but for basically being, having really opinions, even though they have no
authority
on any
at
of this.
all.
And Sean Penn did apparently go to Iraq, and why am I saying it like that? Iraq, and he supposedly got film crews to follow him around and make sure he was filmed doing that. And apparently the only celebrity that we've had a really massive complaint from was Sean Penn, and he sent a letter to them before the film was released, in the knowledge that he was going to be in this film, saying like, I've been to Iraq, and actually it is full of people with gumdrop smiles and stuff like that. Apparently he sent a letter, and they were like, it was just fucking hilarious because he said exactly the same things that we take the piss out of him for. He basically goes through
knowingly.
I don't think he realised what he knew he was going to get taken the piss out of.
But he didn't. He hadn't read the line that they had written,
but he basically was exactly the same as the stuff they had in written. Like, that's hilarious that he's done that, because that's exactly what we took the piss out of him for, and he's obviously not seen it yet, and he probably won't even watch it.
How do they not get in more legal suing trouble?
Loads of trouble. when they did the Scientology episode, they actually changed all of the names of the staff apart from theirs in the credits because they were like, if you want, you can sue us. And at the end of it, like Stan, basically, all the people from Scientology threatened to sue Stan. And Stan just goes, why don't you fucking sue me then? Sue me. Go on then. And they're like, we're going to sue you, buddy. It's like, yeah, fucking sue me. And that literally is what they end on, just to take the piss, being like, if you want to come after us, fucking sue us. And then then it says, created by Trey Parker and Matt Stone, and then everyone else is John Smith, Jane Smith, John Smith.
Is
it? Yeah, they're like, so that they can protect the
absolute
staff.
Heroes. Absolute heroes. That's brilliant.
All right, what are we on now?
3 left.
3 more to go. Everyone panicked and cried out for somebody to help, but it was too late. The gorillas beat him to death before the zookeepers could gas them off.
yeah. A good one. B or A. Not an S tier.
Not quite, unfortunately. Probably maybe Gary's best line, or certainly up there.
Oh.
Because he doesn't have...
Oh, yeah. Bit more of a straight man, sort of.
For sure. Right. Shit, I've got 5 terrorists going east on Bakalakadaka Street.
Yes. A, maybe even S. Not quite taking the cake for me.
I remember finding that one after a few different places that I'd looked for quotes and be like, I missed that one.
That was what I saw again in the film the other day, which I don't think I fully appreciated the first times.
I span the wheel, even though there's only one left on it.
Nice.
Number 2. Let's see what that is. The terrorist is getting away with the WMD. I got him. Joe fires a rocket launcher into the Eiffel Tower, which topples over and destroys the Arc de Triomphe. Damn, I missed him.
Yeah, it continues with that as well, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Where they like go into the Louvre, and another great one. Maybe a B for me, maybe a CB. So yeah, I guess that leaves us with our winner.
With the 18th one written down, so it almost didn't make the cut. Now hold on, team. Gary has already proven to me that he is 100% committed to the team. He proved it last night by sucking my cock.
It's just the silence that follows.
Absolutely quality.
Well, if you enjoyed this, don't forget to like and subscribe, and we will see you on Wednesdays and Sundays.
Thanks, guys. Today we have a very special segment lined up for you, my dear listeners. We are diving into the messy, the gross, and the hilariously unforgettable. That's right, it's time to present the award for the best vomiting scene in cinema history.
Nice. I like it.
Essentially what I've got here is this is award show format. Okay. I'm going to go through a few honourable mentions and then we will present 4 different candidates.
Okay.
Spoilers for those films. And then there's actually a system that I've got in place for us to rank them and decide which one's going to be the best.
I'm keen. I'm ready.
Now, vomiting scenes can be quite impactful in films, whether they're meant to shock, disgust, or make us laugh. Before we get to our main nominees, let's give a shout out to some honourable mentions that didn't quite make the cut but are still worth noting. We have I Love You Man in 2009, directed by John Hamburg.
Why does he throw it?
He doesn't have any friends.
Okay.
He's trying to find a best mate. He only has girlfriends, so his wife sets him up with one of her gal pals' husband. Goes to a poker night. He's trying to get on with people. He's doing all right. Ends up in a chugging competition and then pukes on the host.
Okay.
Out of nowhere.
Cringe
after
humor.
winning it. Yeah, and then he gets kicked out. And it is quite funny. Number 2, Problem Child 2, 1991, directed by Brian Levant. Now, I've watched all... I got to say, my research for this was interesting.
Oh, God.
Just watched cinema's greatest vomiting scenes. Some of them aren't funny, some are just gross. This one was pretty funny and was actually quite close to making the cut. The only reason I didn't was because I'd never even heard of the film.
Okay.
So I thought, okay, some element of iconicness. But it's got to be the best vomiting scene in cinema history. So it can't just be, this is a great scene. It has to be emblematic of what we've got in cinema's rich history. So Problem Child 2, set at a fairground. Someone can't get on a ride, this problem child, and then he manages to find the switches to turn everything to like 11, and so all these people are going on dodging. It is pretty funny.
Yeah. Most fairgrounds have one of those buttons. About.
It's ridiculous, but it is pretty funny. Out of nowhere, they're all vomiting on each other. Number 3, honourable mention 3, The Meaning of Life by the Monty Python guys, Terry Jones. Have you seen that one?
I have seen this one.
See, I thought in terms of how famous it is, maybe it should go in, Mr. Creosote, but I am so sickened by it. I hate that scene.
It's
I wanted to have it as an honourable mention out of respect, but I just despise it. I didn't want to...
Because of how vomity and gross it
how
is.
disgusting it is.
Yeah,
completely gross.
bad, isn't it?
So get rid of that one. There's one in Bridesmaids, 2011, directed by Paul Feig. I can't even remember what happens in that one. You got Pitch Perfect as well. Similarly, she pukes all over an audience at one point. And yeah, that's essentially all of our honourable mentions for us. So I Love You Man, Problem Child 2, Meaning of Life, Bridesmaids, Pitch Perfect. Sorry, you didn't make the cut, but very memorable vom scenes. Before we proceed then, a quick spoiler warning. We will be discussing specific scenes from these films in a bit more detail. Some of them are actually very crucial to the plot, particularly the first one. So I'm going to say the film and then just give a second so you can turn off or you can skip to the next, and we'll have our chapters in the bottom as well for you. So our first nominee is from Knives Out.
I've seen it.
I know. I was hoping, because I think you've seen almost all of these. Directed by Ryan Johnson. It is. It's just spelled Ryan for some reason. So in this modern whodunit, Marta Cabrera, played by Ana de Armas, is a nurse with an unusual reaction to lying. She can't do it without vomiting. This unique character trait leads to an intense and quite memorable scene where Marta vomits on Chris Evans' character, Ransom Drysdale, during a climactic revelation. You know what we're talking about?
I do, yeah. I like the way it's integrated in the plot as well. That's good.
Yeah, which is going to be one of the elements of our scoring system that we get to. Number 2, if I can bloody find it. Next up, we have Stand By Me.
Don't think I've seen this one.
From 1986, I didn't think you had. Directed by Rob Reiner, same guy who directed Princess Bride.
Yep.
In this coming-of-age tale, there's a legendary scene where the boys share a campfire story about Lard-Ass Hogan, who enacts his revenge at a pie-eating contest. What starts as a triumphant moment for Lard-Ass quickly turns into a town-wide puke fest, making it one of the most iconic vomiting scenes in film history. Our third nominee is The Exorcist.
Nice.
1973.
I like that.
Directed by William Friedkin, this horror classic features what is perhaps the most infamous vomiting scene ever. ChatGPT wrote this, by the way. This is not just our opinions on what is infamous and what's iconic. We will be the determiners.
This is fact.
The true determiners will be the mate night at the end. But ChatGPT thinks it's the most iconic.
Thinks it's smart.
Yeah, shut up, ChatGPT. When young Reagan, possessed by a demon, turns her head and spews green bile all over Father Karras, it became a moment etched in horror cinema forever. The practical effects and sheer shock value of this scene make it unforgettable. And finally, our last nominee is this week's film that we watched, Team America World Police, 2004.
Check out the videos here.
Yep, please do. Directed by Trey Parker and from Trey Parker and Matt Stone of South Park. So this satirical action comedy features a scene where the protagonist, Gary Johnston, grapples with his inner turmoil and ends up vomiting copiously, and I mean copiously, and repeatedly in an alley. The sheer absurdity and the length of the scene take the humour to another level, making it a standout moment in the film. So there you have it. Mm-hmm. Those are our nominees. Now, let's go over how we're going to determine our winner. Each scene will be discussed in 3 categories. Scope. How important was the scene to the film? Mm-hmm. Legacy. How iconic is the scene in cinema history? Sensory. How did the scene make you feel? I couldn't describe that very well, but essentially it's like how visually impressive is the scene. Or sensory.
How well executed was it?
Yeah. If it's like some of them, you're like, okay, that was fun to watch, or that was interesting. Some of them, you're like, okay, it's not exactly like this act of being sick is that impressive.
Yeah, okay.
It might be impressive to the scene. Right. Each category will get a score out of 5, and the winner will be the film with the highest total score. Let's break down each scene and see who comes out on top.
Excellent. So I'm going to have to watch a couple.
Happy with that. Let's pause that there, and then you can watch
Her
them all,
behaviour.
and we'll go from there.
We're live.
Right.
Okay, so we've watched the 4 of them now.
Mm-hmm. Thoughts?
Okay, so I think that each one of them had strengths in different areas. The Knives Out one, to me, in terms of story, Stand By Me was the only one that I didn't know the story in which the context in which that took place. For me, the story element of the Knives Out one, the scope, it's got to have won for me, that one.
I also agree. I felt like Knives Out, when I was drafting the criteria, I thought, well, Knives Out's going to do well in the story. It's essentially the climax is predicated on that, on the vomit. I think where Stand By Me will actually get demerited is on that, because realistically it's a campfire story they're saying, so it's not even a real, probably not a real event. It's probably a made up story.
Okay.
But let's do it in the way that I'd initially expected, and then we'll try and get some scores. So we'll go first then. Why don't we go Knives Out and say scope-wise then? So how important was the scene to the film? I'd be happy to give that 5 out of 5.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
And then if we go, how iconic is the scene in cinema history?
Not that iconic.
No.
People will know it. People will probably remember it,
will
but
know
it's not... Is it even old enough to really get to be iconic?
To get to that, I think, if Knives Out becomes kind of a treasured film of a generation and people look back on it fondly, that scene will be particularly well thought of. But at the moment, it's just a bit too soon to say.
Yeah, and I don't think as well it can be classed as, even if it did become an iconic movie, I would still say maybe that vomit won't be as important in terms of the history.
Yeah, I'm happy to give it a 1 or a 2 on that. But...
We'll give it a 2 because I reckon a lot of people will know about it.
Yeah, okay. And then finally we've got sensory. So essentially, I couldn't find a good way of... I've said, how did the scene make you feel? And I didn't reword it, but how impressive was it as a visual spectacle?
The actual vomiting itself.
Yeah, because as you've seen from the others now that we've watched, they've all got quite a distinctive style. And some of them are really like, okay, that... Of all the scenes I watched, which was a lot, some of them were more impressive. They're like ridiculously impressive voms.
Is it like how realistic or...
Not necessarily realistic, but how... impressive as a piece of
they clearly attempted to go down the realistic nuanced route in the Knives Out one. It was
much
like
more
over the
than
top,
and any of the other nominees,
which for me, I appreciate that. I feel like especially in that film it would have been ridiculous to do one of the vomits from the other films from Ana de Armas's character.
Oh my god,
that would have just been hilarious. Like, it would have just completely broken the immersion. So they did their job well on that. In terms of how well produced it was fine. It wasn't great, it wasn't outstanding, it also wasn't bad. It just, what do you reckon?
Yeah,
down the middle.
Down the middle. Should we say a 3?
Down the middle, 4.
So we're talking 10 out of 15. Next one we have Stand By Me. So how important was the scene to the film? I think whilst it's adding to kind of character development, these boys we kind of follow for the rest of the film, and they go through a very intense sequence where they find a dead body and like, it's quite an intense. It's like a coming of age film where a lot of growing up is done in it, and this element is more kind of building their friendship, campfire stories. So although it's a interesting story, I think the fact that it is a story, you could replace it with anything. It's not integral to the plot.
Not even slightly.
No,
it's not even. 100%. That's a 1 for me, as far as I'm concerned.
I'm happy with a 1 for that. And then, how iconic is the scene in cinema history? Now, it does quite a bit better. I'd say only behind The Exorcist. This is maybe Team America as well, because even though Team America's from 2004. Yeah,
you'd be way more likely to be able to input on that one for me.
I would say 4 out of 5.
Okay, cool.
And then finally, how did it make you feel?
I thought the fact that every single person in the room had the exact same luminous blue, purple, liquidy vomit, the exact same as each other, seemed a bit silly. I don't know.
I remember finding it kind of funny when I watched it. I was like, oh yeah, that's funny. Particularly right at the end, when he's looking out on the crowd and everyone's vomiting. Literally at the back, they just have quite clearly people just chucking vom in the air.
Blue.
Yeah.
Juice,
and it's like it's firing off over loads of different angles.
There wasn't particularly advanced production or anything.
No, similar to The Exorcist, isn't it? Where it's like just very distinctive.
Yeah.
Right. So, how does the scene make you feel? You weren't all that impressed.
Yeah, middle of the road.
I'd say 3. Let's go 3.
I think 3.
All right. So, for Stand By Me, we have a score of 8 out of 15. The Exorcist. How important was the scene to the film?
Not
I
that
think
important.
similarly to Stand By Me, she was doing a lot of wild stuff in that scene. I'd say it's more important because it really added to the craziness of the possession.
Mm-hmm.
Like she did quite a lot of very, like obviously with the spider walk ended up getting cut.
Yep.
So you're then looking at things like the telekinesis she exhibited.
Yeah.
The kind of strength to like grab people and potentially twist someone's head.
Yep.
All the way around. The levitating, the violent green sick, it all adds to it. So it's definitely not.
It was relevant to the central narrative,
but you could have probably replaced it with other things as well.
So 2 or 3.
I think we go with 2.
Cool.
How iconic is the scene in cinema history? I'd probably go 5.
I'd say 5.
This is amongst many elements of her behaviour, very iconic. Finally, sensory then. Okay, maybe a good way to approach this. Which one do you think had more of a sensory impact? This one or the Stand By Me?
I'd say this one probably had
with the green as well.
And it went really clearly in his mouth, which made me really feel like...
Yeah, I suppose. Well, do you think a 4?
Yeah, I think 4 is good for that. I feel like it could potentially have been slightly more. Like, if they really wanted to, they could have maybe gone further, but equally.
But I think that the green... It was so green at the point it kind of just looked like slime.
Yeah.
Like it was maybe just a bit too much for me. Okay, so we've got 11 then.
Okay.
So currently our standings are in third place is Stand By Me with 8 out of 15. Second place we have... Oh, sorry, this isn't... We don't know. It's currently last is Stand By Me with 8 out of 15. Next up with 10 out of 15 is Knives Out. And then going into the final film, our current leader is The Exorcist with 11 out of 15 points for the best vomiting scene
Best one in cinema history.
So finally then, we've got Team America, the film we just watched. And going into this, I thought this might be the front runner because for me, it's probably the scene I think to as the greatest vomiting scene of cinema history. But let's see how it stacks up against the criteria.
I think the first criterion is where it's going to struggle, really.
How important was the scene to the film? So when I wrote this, I also wanted to add, included in this is like, what is the film trying to achieve? So it's humor. It is trying to make you laugh. So plot-wise, it's kind of, a bit of a, doesn't necessarily need to be in the scene, but in terms of what it's doing to enhance the film experience, this is an incredibly... one of the funniest scenes of the film, I'd say.
Yeah, okay. It was less of a funny one for me, but I would say that the music really set it aside. So for those who haven't seen it, he vomits and then he stops. And then the music goes, roar, and it's like this big cinematic, and he vomits again, and then he stops. And it does it like 3 times, and each time it just gets more and more ridiculous. But the music kind of really adds to the impact of how ridiculous it all is.
When I first was interested in watching Team America, I remember like putting on YouTube Team America, and this is the first thing that came up, the Team America vomit scene. And I watched it, I was like, that's really funny. So I think in terms of enhancing the experience or what the film's trying to achieve, it does quite a good job, even though they could have had a variety of different funny scenes. So for me, I'd say 3.
I'd say 3's, I think that's, if we're including their objective.
How iconic is it in cinema history? I think it's a very iconic cinema puke.
Is it a 5?
Is it a 5?
Is it an Exorcist in terms of...
I reckon it is not. It's probably one rung down.
I would say that's probably
Let's
fair,
go 4.
I'm not the best assessor of that.
How did the scene make you feel? So for me, I think this is actually the best in terms of it. It's funny. It's not too. It doesn't make you kind of.
It looks kind of realistic.
It's from a puppet, so it doesn't really matter. The whole bit at the end where he's literally the ground is covered.
Yeah.
The final shot is like a tracking shot from a helicopter, from a bird's eye perspective, and it just shows the scale of the amount of sick that's on the ground. I think it's a 5 for me.
I think it's a 5. I think that we love that scene.
So we have then with a score of 12 points.
Thank goodness. That makes distinct.
I was hoping it won because it was the film we did this week, but still wanted...
No tiebreakers?
Yep, no tiebreakers. I was just thinking, like, in my head, maths-wise, if we have to tiebreak, I've got nothing prepared. Let's round off then for us. So we have then done our... what are they called? We've had our honourable mentions and we've nominated our nominees for the greatest cinema vomit scene of all time. And the winner with 12 chunks out of 15 is Team America World Police with an exceptional scene of Gary puking in a street.
It's funny. It's very well put together.
If you're watching this film for the vomit scenes, you've got some good research to be getting on with there. But yeah, thanks for listening, guys.
Thanks so much for listening. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Wondering if Team America is for you? We're going to give you all the most important points, spoiler free, to know if this is a movie you'd enjoy, and we'll conclude with the Mate Night score. Team America is a movie released in 2004 by the South Park co-creators Trey Parker and Matt Stone. It's a marionette action satire that lampoons American conservatism, liberalism, and the whole planet. Roughly speaking, if you like South Park, then you will like this. Expect humor that's both outrageous and potentially offensive, wrapped in utter absurdity. Across the board, if this is your type of humor, it is one of the funniest things we've ever watched. A handful of the jokes have aged less well, but it's a master of misdirection and satire.
So in terms of the aging then, mainly the humour that's related to celebrities, which is talking about celebrities that were relevant in 2004. So some of the references there maybe don't translate as well unless you're a bit familiar with who was famous back then.
Yeah, a lot of celebrity humour, again, like South Park. Some other areas of humour that it introduces, there's a lot of physical comedy around the marionettes. This is really where it differentiates from South Park.
Yeah, we mentioned this actually when we were discussing if you like South Park, you're going to like Team America. And if anything, there is the added element of the marionette physical humor. Like a lot of really interesting comic points are derived from how the marionettes interact with each other, how ridiculous it is when they're saying these really serious lines. And apparently that's actually something that the creators really had in mind when they wrote the script and changed things specifically to see the marionettes articulate them. In
addition to that, you'll find your typical South Park dialogue. Mm-hmm. You know, those hilarious pauses when someone says something ridiculous. The absurdity, the ridiculousness is just a huge part of everything. And that comes through in the dialogue as well.
Yeah, and Jamie mentioned it as well. We're talking, if you're really someone who likes a bit more safe humour, then it unlikely to be for you.
Yeah, I think there's two areas. There's the racial offensive humour, which you have to be able to accept. But then there's also the ridiculousness. Yeah. I know that I was watching it with Vez, and she doesn't mind the offensive element, but she just doesn't find the ridiculousness funny at all. So if you don't like ridiculous humor, it's not for you. There's the misdirection, there's the political and satire. As always, there's loads of kind of political commentary and things like that.
And typically when they do make kind of on the nose or out there jokes, they have a point or a purpose. Like, a lot of the lampooning is around the American belief that they're the center of the universe. So when you're looking at these characters as massive stereotypes, which some of them are, yes, that is quite offensive, but the whole point is that is how Americans perceive these characters. Sometimes they could do a bit more to show that, but generally they do make it clear that you're not supposed to see people like this.
They're taking the mick out of the lens through which Americans look at the world.
Yeah.
And some other areas which will help you decide. The music, again, characteristic of South Park, features a classic soundtrack filled with original, humorous songs that are genuinely great songs and very impressive music.
Yeah, I mean, like, you come to expect it from Trey Parker and Matt Stone. They've got a litany of really impressive and memorable songs over the course of the 25 years that they've been pumping stuff out. And really, this is like up there with some of the most memorable songs you've seen from South Park. You will remember songs from this film for the rest of your life. Like, it's that engaging, funny, and memorable.
The length, it's only 90 minutes, and at Mate Night we always appreciate a 90-minute film. It justifies every second.
Absolute breeze. You know, we always say my perfect film could only be below 2 hours because it would have to be something I could decide to watch in an afternoon and still feel I had the rest of the day if I went and watched it. You know, it falls perfectly in this category. Obviously, part of it is how hard it would have been for them to make, but 90 minutes feels just right for this film.
The political messaging, it has numerous political and philosophical messages around foreign and domestic policy, which aren't especially groundbreaking necessarily, but they are there nonetheless.
No, I mean, we won't spoil anything here, but effectively, you know, they're not, as Jamie said, they're not doing anything particularly groundbreaking. You're going to find them take the mick out of both sides of the political spectrum, not only domestically, but as Jamie says, kind of foreign policy and how particularly America is enacting its foreign policy through the guise of this ridiculous Team America idea. And yeah, they're not breaking any new ground, but still, you don't come out of it thinking like, oh, they've completely missed the mark or anything like that with the political ideas that they're trying to espouse. So after a discussion on this one, then, we ended up settling on a score of 8.66 out of 10 for Team America, which is very high. And it actually makes it the fourth greatest film of all time until further notice. And for us both, we do want to stress this. I'm not sure if it came across, but realistically, this is one of the absolute funniest films that either of us have ever watched. It's a personal favourite of both of ours. Over the course of our friendship, we've spoken about it quite a lot, and it was a joy to rewatch it again. And for anyone considering it who does know that they are open to a bit more ridiculous and maybe a bit more humour that crosses the boundary, you will find that this is a really good risk to take for you, worth that 90 minutes of time. Yes, some of the elements have dated, but on the whole, you're still looking at, you know, a rip-snorting affair that you can put on for a laugh at any date or time. And of course, some of the songs, they'll stay with you for life as well.
Don't forget to like and subscribe.
Thanks, guys.
Well, I hope you all enjoyed that episode today. Team America World Police, we got VOMs, we got impressions, we got our best attempt at helping people out. Now is the time where I'm going to give you the breakdown of the scores which we allocated to this film. So Team America, 2004, Fred came in with an 8.5 out of 10 for enjoyment, and I gave an 8.4. That's one of the closest that we've ever got. We both massively enjoyed this film. You know, we make a point of saying if it's a gut feel, it's not about how good anything is. It's just simply how enjoyable was it? And it is a very enjoyable film. Then we move into the objective categories. We've got plot. We gave it a 6 out of 10 because, let's be honest, it's not exactly going to be, you know, The Godfather, 12 Angry Men. Character, we gave it an 8. Dialogue, a 9. It's a comedy and a belter of one. Performance, 9. It had the marionette buff. I mean, come on, like that is insane to do a whole film like that. Visuals, 9, same again. Sound, 10, and impact, 10. This gave us one of our highest rated films so far. So Team America World Police 2004 got an average score of 8.66 out of 10, which puts it at the 5th greatest film of all time until further notice. But it's more, you could say it's in the 90th percentile. It's right up near the top. It really is a great film. It has aged a bit, as you might have heard us mention, but honestly, love it to bits. Please check it out if you get the chance to. And as always, if you're listening this far in, genuinely, we both really appreciate it. So thank you so much for your time, and we'll see you in the next one.